How to work the room. So someone asked a phenomenal question, or rather they made a great content suggestion. And piggybacking off of another video I recently posted talking about social etiquette and soft power. Someone asked, and shout out to you, babes. Someone asked, can I make a separate video talking about how to actually work the room and exhibit social etiquette? This is such a great idea. And ironically enough, I don't know how I didn't think about doing this, considering the fact I'm big on reading the room, talking about interpersonal dynamics. But I'm just going to give a few pointers. One of the first things that I encourage people to do to work the room is to step back from the shiniest object syndrome. Learn how to reel that in when you are first acclimating yourself to an environment or to a group. And the reason being that, and sometimes, it's in good intentions, or rather it's with good intentions that people are ready to pitch themselves, talk a little bit about their background. Some people are just naturally more extroverted and out there. They're very, very big on communicating the ins and outs and the details of, their interest and what they're doing. Some people just thrive off of social interactions and networking. But I encourage people to work the room, right, with some kind of etiquette. Give space for other people to tell you a little bit more about themselves. I realize now, obviously, there's going to be some outliers and some exceptions, but I've realized that for the most part, people tend to gravitate towards individuals who give them room to process, okay, is this someone that I'm willing to open up to? Is this someone that I'm willing to make a connection with? So the key when it comes to social etiquette is giving people a choice, giving them the option to connect with you, to network with you, to rub shoulders with you, and also giving them the option in the room to process whether or not they feel like you would be a fit for their life. And although this may be kind of like uncomfortable for some people, especially if you have, certain rejection issues or a difficult time processing rejection, maybe you had some traumatic experiences relevant to rejection, or maybe you battle with people-pleasing tendencies, right? So you may internalize people choosing not to connect with you or collaborate with you as if there's something wrong with you, right? When in actuality, everyone just isn't going to be one another's cup of tea, or maybe someone may really be fond of you. So let's hone in with, a professional lens, right? Someone may be really fond of you, really fond of your personality, but considering the kind of work that they do, they may not see a fit for you to kind of join whatever it is that they've built or join whatever organization that they're working with. So for example, you can be at a professional networking event and say someone that you're speaking to, right? You guys hit it off, you guys made eye contact, you guys had like a moment where you both made a joke with one another. There's real chemistry there. But as you learn a little bit more about what it is that they do, you're just like, oh, wow, I'm here to network with someone who is interested in design, right, in the fashion industry. But the person who you hit it off with is specifically in the finance industry, and they're an accountant. So even though you guys have great chemistry, you guys may not necessarily have an opportunity to merge both of those worlds, or at least that opportunity hasn't presented itself yet. So if someone is there on a mission to bring a specific member to complete a particular task within an organization, then yes, that may look like them, quote unquote, rejecting you, right? Being like, you know what, I loved your personality, we hit it off great, but I'm looking for something very specific so we can fulfill this particular role within the company. So I'm going to have to shift my attention to someone who actually meets those requirements, right? So when we think about it in a more practical lens, I think it helps us process this idea and this concept of like rejection and, making peace with it, not taking it so personal, because rejection is also a great compass, right? And sometimes people who battle with those people-pleasing tendencies, and this is just me getting, faith-based right now, but people who battle with people-pleasing tendencies, I believe that there is a track record of God allowing certain people to kind of close certain doors on you, or to kind of like not give you updates and things like that, because God knows that you're someone who you're not going to take the initiative to close the door yourself. Or maybe you're someone who has a difficult time setting boundaries when it's actually beneficial, or speaking up and talking about things that make you uncomfortable. So just like how scripture states how the Lord will use your enemies as a footstool, I think we only think about that through the lens of like, oh, they're going to be my footstool to put me in, a particular position and things like that. But essentially that verse is also depicting that God will use your enemies for the greater good. And sometimes the greater good looks like, okay, if you're not willing to look at these red flags and take action or draw a line in the sand, I'm going to use them to do so for you. Okay, so you can get back on track and get back on the right path. And ironically enough, this is kind of connected to another video that I posted on my faith-based channel, The Remnant Room, where I talked about thanking God for the no's. And I discussed like certain scripture that depicts why God will allow certain things to happen and why we will be faced with certain no's and closed doors and, dried up opportunities, because God is using those closed doors or using that no to redirect you to his purpose, to his calling for your life. And getting back on track with the topic today, though, social etiquette and knowing how to work the room. When you have a healthy mindset and a healthy approach when it comes to interpersonal interactions at large. And circling back to the point that I was making earlier regarding social etiquette, and one of the nuggets, or rather one of the methods that you can use, especially if you are becoming familiar with a new group or a new environment, is not dominating conversations. So it's not the same as you watering yourself down, but I'm talking about someone who has the tendency to dominate every discussion or to constantly throw themselves at people, and they're not giving that person room to first and foremost process what's going on, what's happening. And secondly, they're not giving that person the opportunity to even discern and decide whether or not they want to associate themselves with you. And the reason why this is a part of etiquette is because some people may actually perceive this negatively. You may have good intentions and you may be really eager and interested in rubbing shoulders with certain people and letting people know what you're all about, what you're passionate about. And you may have great attributes to bring to the table, but some people may perceive this as one, desperation. And if people feel like you're desperate, then they may conclude that you're hiding something. Another way that this can be perceived is you being manipulative. Some people may perceive that you going above and beyond to, prove yourself, talk about what it is that you're doing, talk about what it is that you're interested in, or you're trying to force the connection to happen. They may feel like you're robbing them of even making a choice to decide whether or not they want to associate themselves with you. So that's one of the first things, is being very cautious of being too dominating and domineering, even if you have good intentions. And domination in this context doesn't always look very aggressive and abrasive. It's just someone who may be like, they may have very high-strung energy, someone who's constantly talking and they're very giddy and they're all in people's face. And it's just like, kind of like a little chihuahua, right? So social etiquette is learning how to pace yourself, right? Give people room, give people space, and just show that you respect people's boundaries. And respecting their boundaries also looks like you giving them a choice and respecting their choice. Another way to work the room is check your energy. And this is actually going to require internal work. I recently had a coaching session with someone, and I was stating to them, I was like, when you pick up on certain energy, that is not coincidental. I said, people don't realize that their energy communicates before they do. Now, the reason why energy is so important is because that's what's going to be the determining factor, whether or not, someone actually buys what you're selling, for lack of better words, right? Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be you literally trying to pitch something, but if you are trying to present yourself as a particular person, or as if you have good intentions, but your energy isn't showing that, then easily people are going to start to back out. And this is another reason why I prioritize talking about energy when we speak on social etiquette and not necessarily optics and presentation. Because I've seen time and time again where someone looked the part and they were a very smooth talker, but people, you could just tell by their body language and their face that they were not buying what that person was selling. They were not convinced. versus they went to a completely different person who may have been a little bit rough around the edges, but they had a very warm and authentic and a genuine energy about them. And they were like, you know what, I'm willing to give this person a shot. I am. Something about them, they might need a little bit of work, they might need a little bit of tweaking here and there, but when they're talking to me about, let's keep it professional, when they're talking to me about a mission statement for this project that they want to get up and running and they're looking for potential partners, I can tell that they know what they're talking about. I can tell that they have experience because when I'm asking them hard questions, they're able to answer it with details. I can also see the light in their eyes when they talk about their mission statement. I'm willing to put my dollar on this person. So a person's energy is what will set them apart. Because you may walk into a room and there may be so many other people who are thriving in the optics area, but your energy is what will make you stand out. Now, the prerequisite for this is you have to do internal work, because optically you can do all kinds of flips and tricks to kind of hide, right? You can do all kinds of flips and tricks and little hacks and things like that to hide what it is that you're thinking, but your energy doesn't lie. And someone who is keen, someone who is insightful and discerning, they pick up on energy. So it's going to be really difficult to fool them, even if you do have stellar optics, or even if you have a really, really good script prepared. They're going to pick up on something inauthentic about you and they're going to back away, or they're not going to keep that conversation and connection going. But here's the thing. Another reason why energy is so important, or rather working on your internal, to fix your energy, right? To get your energetic field in a more positive state. The reason why doing that prerequisite work is key is because when you step into certain spaces where you have the opportunity to connect and build with certain people, if you're not operating in a positive energy, you will click up with the bitter Bettys. So you don't even realize that you are naturally gravitating towards and attracting people who thrive on negativity, who thrive on belittling people because they're stagnant, they're not building anything, or they don't have anything to look forward to. And you're going to reject someone walking in with a light and a positive energy who's actually interested in building connections and working towards something, building real camaraderie, building real community. You're going to reject that person because you two are not operating in the same energetic field. So doing that internal work before you even start practicing social etiquette is very important. Another element of social etiquette and working the room is respect. I think one of the easiest ways to close the door on a potential opportunity is you being disrespectful. And this is a two-way street. This isn't just about someone who's looking to move up the pyramid, right? The professional pyramid, but this also is significant from top down. So it's not just bottom up, but top down as well, meaning that there are some people who were in prominent positions and they were looking for people to add on to their team, or maybe they did have certain people a part of their team and they lost top of the notch workers and partners because they were so disrespectful. They talked to people crazy. They talked about people crazy. They had a knack. They had a kink for degrading and humiliating people in group settings. And due to their disregard for respecting other people, they lost assets, whether it be personally or professionally. And another reason why respect is a part of social etiquette is because when you are disrespectful, you do not realize that it is a sign of immaturity. Someone who is disrespectful is constantly showing they battle with emotional dysregulation. So, and I've stated this before. I've stated that I was in a training before, and one of the instructors who were supposed to be telling us about what we paid to be there for, right? The training and all of that, they got in front of the room. In that time that was supposed to be allotted for them talking about, certain things that we were preparing for in a professional context, they utilized that time slot to talk negatively about and sneak diss someone in the audience. And as much as that person, when they were doing it, they thought they were probably big and bad. They thought that they were exerting all of this superiority and this dominance and this power. In my mind, I felt like they looked absolutely ridiculous. I actually had secondhand embarrassment. What I gathered from that person when they did that was they were extremely immature. And here's the thing, when I watched this person, this wasn't their first time doing something like that to a completely different individual. But the issue is other people became complacent in this person's immaturity and their antics. So once they come across someone who's just like, absolutely not, I'm not going to tolerate this. So I'm going to go ahead and take my money moving forward. And I'm going to go to a completely different space and I'm going to get this training somewhere else. Or actually, I've decided not to move forward with this because if this is what I'm signing up for, you know what, you can go ahead and keep this. But you won't be getting anything out of me moving forward. But that's a conversation for another day, even though I've talked about that time and time again on my channel. How when you experience someone disrespecting you, that's a sign for you to depart. I'm telling you right now, especially if it's a thing where everyone is either enabling it or they're joining the bandwagon with being disrespectful towards you. That is your cue to get your ducks in line to get out of Dodge. Because a disrespectful person, it goes beyond ego and pride. When I talk about being very mindful of allowing someone to disrespect you and tolerating their disrespect, it goes beyond ego and pride. You should be indifferent to whatever it is that they're saying because 9 times out of 10, they're speaking from an emotionally intoxicated state to begin with. They're emotionally dysregulated. Instead, not tolerating disrespect is you setting a firm boundary. I do not have to tolerate your emotional immaturity. The boundary is as simple as that. So if I communicate that to you through my actions, through my words, that will not be tolerated. And rather than you respecting that boundary and taking a step back and being like, you know what, I did go too far. I didn't need to say that. First and foremost, that had nothing to do with the work that we're doing. And secondly, it was completely out of bounds and out of line. We didn't even have a negative enough interaction with one another to warrant that kind of response. But rather than taking accountability, they're going to coerce other people to join on this bandwagon, to come up against you, to take the heat off of their need to take accountability for their foolishness. And this is why people who have just a habit and a pattern of being disrespectful, I steer clear from. It's completely different when you defend yourself, right? If someone's lying on you, I feel like that's few and far between. Those kinds of interactions and maybe even those kinds of heated debates is few and far between. But someone who has a consistent track record, you've seen it more than once where they had a tendency to disrespect, belittle, and take jabs at another party. 9 times out of 10, this person is battling with arrested development. They are emotionally and mentally stunted. Period. So, as I stated before, you setting boundaries when someone disrespects you, and sometimes that boundary is simply a physical boundary. Some people, you look at them from a mile away and you're just like, there is no need for us to have a conversation. I know they're going to tap dance around it. I know they're going to gaslight. I know they're going to invalidate. I know they're going to send their flying monkeys to make me feel bad about setting a boundary with them. So what I'm going to do is just establish physical distance. I've seen enough. I'm not finna keep dancing in this circus. Because this is in fact a circus. This is a circus show. This is the Chitlin circuit, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to just go ahead and bow out gracefully. And I'm going to align myself with people in an environment where there's respect, there's maturity, and there's regulation, emotional regulation. So another huge piece of social etiquette is respect. Because respect, or rather your ability to be respectful towards other people, is a depiction of regulation. When people see that you can respect others, they also can see the fact that you are someone who is emotionally regulated. I'm going to give you guys an example because the domino effect was absolutely crazy. A couple days ago, I was out and I was using a particular machine. And as I was wiping down the machine and getting ready to use it, and I went to go throw away the little napkin, an older woman looked very great for her age. She might have been like in her 50s or 60s, but she looked like she was in her 40s, like her mid to early 40s. She walks over to the machine and prepares to sit down and things like that. And when we locked eyes, she was like, oh, were you just now, were you done or were you finna get on it? I was like, I was finna get on it, but it's okay. I had a lot of time to spare that day. So I was like, okay, let me just wait for her to finish her little rep and things like that. And when she ended up getting on the machine and I went to go like kind of sit down in another area or stand in another area to wait for her, the machine right next to her, which was the same machine, ended up clearing. So I was able to go sit down. And lo and behold, as I was walking by, she was like, oh, I'm finishing up now. And I was like, no, take your time. This machine right next to you ended up clearing. So after that, I'm starting to do my little routine and things like that. And she walks over to me and she's just like, by the way, what perfume are you wearing? And then she ended up telling me where she got her eyebrows done, and it ended up being a very pleasant interaction. And when I got home later on, I laughed to myself and I was like, now imagine if that interaction went completely different. Say I got super defensive and I was like, she saw me wiping down the machine and she knew I was getting ready to get on it. Imagine if that was my attitude and I was completely disrespectful to this person. And I would have missed out on a very pleasant interaction. Contrarily, probably like 2 days later, I'm scrolling on TikTok and a video pops up where a young woman was lying on a mat in the gym and she was stretching and all of that. And someone else, there was a machine next to her while she was on the floor with her mat, started to get ready to put their stuff on the machine so they can do their rep. And the person on the mat got defensive and was just like, excuse me, I'm using this machine. And the person was looking at them like, well, you're not on it. You're on the floor doing all kinds of flips and stretches and things like that. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh, I might be outnumbered before I checked the comment section, because the person who posted it, but is the one on the floor, the vibe that I'm getting is they're in the wrong. And lo and behold, when I checked the comment section, everyone was on the same page. If you're not using the machine, that means it's up for grabs. That means that the machine is up for grabs. You can't hog the machine if it's clearly open to be occupied, right? But that was a difference in interactions. If she simply would have been like, you know what, I am doing stretches on the floor right now. It's complete. I could wait for this person since I'm taking my time on this floor. I could wait for this person to use the machine really quickly, and that'll probably buy me a little bit of time to continue stretching, and then I can go ahead and get on the machine, right? So instances where you are just quick to kind of pounce on people, you're quick to be disrespectful, that tendency is going to hinder your social etiquette progress. So if you are someone who has issues with crashing out, or maybe you have a tendency to get a little disrespectful with people, and you acknowledge the fact that this is hindering your social etiquette progress, no worries. I'm not here to judge. Instead, I'm going to emphasize the importance of emotional regulation and really working on that. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit further on what is meant by emotional regulation in the publication Green Eyes. And it reads, nothing can be conquered with emotions. Everything must be conquered with mental agility. Your mind determines your moves, and a move rooted in emotion is bound to be chaotic. Okay, so those are just a few points to start off. I don't know, we might make this into like a little mini series on the channel. Let me know how you guys feel about this kind of content. But of course, I want to hear you all's comments, opinions, perspectives, as well as personal experiences in the comment section below. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next one, babes. Take care. I do have a few announcements. I will be doing a virtual Bible study session, and all you have to do to sign up and receive the link is go to my community tab and click on the link to submit your email address. And that will be taking place November 26, 2025, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lastly, I will be doing a virtual session for the women who were interested in us doing a group talking a little bit about hardships and establishing a safe place that is meant to promote healing and community. So that's finally here. For those who watched my Milena review where I talked a little bit about beauty envy, you guys were telling me that you all would be interested in a group. So that will be taking place December 3rd, 2025, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the process is the same. All you have to do is go to my community tab, click on the corresponding link, and submit your email address so you can receive the virtual meeting link.